I know. If we're ever really desperate, let's just go kick some children on the street.
Is that that's our backup plan?
That's the backup
The
plan.
backup plan is kicking children.
Yep.
It's good.
Yep. Just walk up to him and push him over. We don't even have to be violent, you know, just the kid that's toddling around. Just walk up and like push him over with your foot.
Welcome back to the show. Welcome to the BroadBoys podcast. I'm Cade. This is Micah, renowned child kicker, or soon to be renowned child kicker.
Only if we're desperate.
Only if we're desperate. Welcome to the episode. We got a big topic to talk about, which is last year.
Yeah.
Which is what we've talked. We've talked about 2024 before.
Yep.
But now we're getting into the nitty gritty. We've been holding off some of our opinions, and we really wanted to line it up with the Game of the Year 2024 episode. It's a segment we've done, you know, the past however many episodes we've done.
Since the start.
Starting in 97, I believe, or maybe even 96, whatever year GoldenEye came out.
Yep.
And now we're here in 2024. And it's time to talk about our game top 10. Well, I have my top 10.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Game of the Year pick, and we'll have that whole discussion too. But Micah, I want to know, have you given it some thought on your favorite games of 2024?
I mean, I had some, and I know we had a discussion about it when the Game Awards came out, but I've definitely had more time to savor and think about things.
Exactly.
And yeah, no, there's definitely some games that I'm like, those were my games from last year.
Yeah. You know, and I think that's part of my biggest problem with the Game Awards is that it is in December. Instead of waiting until the end of the year, really giving it some time to reflect, as you said. That's another reason why we waited to do this long, is to really like let it simmer, let it digest, like what actually had an impact in 2024. And we're seeing the effects of it in 2025 a little bit, I'd say. It's going to take a couple more years to really get the kind of the full story of like what did 2024 do for gaming.
I mean, when does the Game Awards become like the Oscars and just take place the following year? Then again, I don't want the Game Awards to become like the Oscars.
Yeah, there's many things about the Oscars, which also happened recently.
Yes, I know we had said that we were going to talk about it. We lied. We're not going to talk about it because it wasn't interesting.
Yeah, we had a discussion online, and basically I was like, have you watched any of the movies?
And I was like, I watched one.
I've watched one. I'm sorry we can't offer anything more than that. Besides, like, I'm sorry, I never cared about the Oscars, and I think many people hold that opinion, even like movie enjoyers.
There were some really cringy. There were some really cringy songs being sung. Because the Oscars is big pageantry and stuff, because they keep losing viewers, and they're like, we're just going to make it a big musical.
Okay.
It was pretty cringe this year.
But I think that wouldn't they have amazing talent for this? Well, they would have like people to
it's
draw it in.
I was about to say, it's a room so full of talent.
Yeah.
And most of them are drunk.
Okay. Oh, Adam Sandler. I remember the Adam Sandler whatever
the
thing.
bit where he gets called out for wearing a hoodie and stuff.
I mean, that's like the only thing I remember.
There's some funny bits, right? And those get circulated around, and people are like, oh, the Oscars was so funny, and then they forget it was a 3.5 hour event.
But no one's talking about Honora after the end of the Oscars.
No, and it won like everything.
Yeah, no one's talking about it.
Yeah, because it wasn't... I'm sorry, it wasn't a good movie. I didn't watch it. But I'm just going to say it wasn't a good movie.
It probably was a good movie. But I don't know. I don't know.
There are good movies, and then there are movies that are just trying to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are movies that are definitely just... we're talking about it now. There are movies that are just made to be Oscar worthy. Like, what was the one where the girl falls in love with a fish man and that won the Oscars?
I don't remember that one either. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the title.
It was literally... No one I knew who had watched it even remotely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it was filmed to be an Oscar nominee.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever gone on my rant before about like these artistic films. You know, but so there's kind of a genre of artistic film that is, like you say, just trying to be noticed. Be like, look at me, I'm so artistic. Versus like a movie being like a story that a director's trying to tell.
Yeah,
you know, and you know there's some umbrellas there. You can determine what goes over the other.
Yeah,
but and this is definitely my problem, and I'm very aware of it. And probably because I've had some academic experience in like the media production realm.
Yeah, I mean, you went to college for film, so
Yeah, something like that.
something like that.
There are some things, or you know, there's a lot of rules with film, like composition, lighting, and all that. And when the rules are broken, they're generally supposed to signify something. Blah blah blah. Or even when you use the rules, you know, normally they're supposed to signify something. And when you're doing it great, you can use those rules or breaking the rules to, you know, symbolically tell the story visually. You know, like a way that has been done well was actually in a short documentary I just watched about this guy who has been on the same cruise ship for 19 years. It's an older documentary, so I'm pretty sure he had to go on land for a bit. But one of the things that they did is they shot towards the window for like 50% of the movie. So typically you don't want to do that because, you know, the window will wash out the subject is dark. But in this scenario, I think what the documentarian is trying to convey is, hey, the outside world is so much better than in here, because he's old and he's like, yep, the only thing I gotta look forward to is the new boats, ha ha ha, you know, and then everyone's super uncomfortable that talks with them and all that. So it's kind of like I thought that was a really good way of breaking a rule to do that. What I find with a lot of Oscar films is when they do it, they're just trying to make it noticeable versus matter to the story.
Yeah, they want someone who knows to be like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
So all the critics and the Oscar panel is like, man, that reflective shot off of their face in the bathwater is like, oh, that one's so cool. And then when you think about it, you're like, well, was that shot important or did it mean anything? No, but it looked cool. And I get that that's a part of movies, is that looking cool is definitely an aspect. You know, if you think of action, most of that is trying to look cool.
It's got to look cool.
It's got to look cool in some way. But there's this real snobbery for when it's not action. And people almost treat it like it's different when someone does like a very obvious reflecting shot that means nothing to the story. There's like, no, that's different than this explosion scene from the Transformers, because this like is artistic in the, you know, film snobby way.
Like talk about movies like that though, like Transformers, Pacific Rim, or even Mad Max, right? Those are films that exemplify what someone can achieve, you know. I'm trying to really think about what I'm going to say.
I cannot wait to hear where you're going with this.
In an action flick, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like when the story doesn't matter, but you're trying to make your people feel something, that's a way to do it that resonates with an audience. Yeah. Even though critics are like, it's just an action film, right? When you do stuff like that in Shape of Water, that's what it's called. Yeah. I think.
No, that sounds very familiar.
It doesn't matter, because the scene that just got played over and over and over again is when they're making love in the ocean, and it's just this like big depth shot, and it's like, it doesn't mean anything. You're just showing me that you can keep them in focus when there's a massive depth of water. Like, congratulations.
Yeah, and I feel like I should reiterate, I don't think that including those shots are like bad by any means.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I see them in the same way I see a Michael Bay explosion. Yeah. I'm like, what value did this decision hold? It had some entertainment value, and then everyone goes when they're watching the movie with me, Cade, what'd you think of that shot? Or Cade, what'd you think of that transition? And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, whatever. But another movie I can think of, oh man, it was the Saltburn.
Saltburn.
Saltburn was a heavy
it was
offender, a heavy offender of this this technique. The amount of like useful content in this movie or story, I would say goes into the negatives, in my opinion. Now, there were some amazing decisions made to kind of show like the insanity of the main character. Yeah. And I'm not going to explain the movie. If you're looking for an explanation of the movie, I'm not going to give it to you, but just don't watch it. It's just like, I don't know what to say. It's just... It was
a movie.
It is marketing itself. Well, it had people who watched it marketing the movie because of its absurdity.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's two ways to show insanity. You have Saltburn, and then I think of a movie that I really, really like, which is American Psycho. Yeah. it's two different ways to show insanity, and one is an artistic grab at it, and the other is just like true insanity. Or even The Shining, is another really great way to show insanity. Saltburn, I think, just got a lot of hype because of how.
Because you can say, "Oh, did you see this movie? It has include any of the crazy
any
scenes.
of the scenes, the bathtub scene, the post funeral
vampire
scene,
scene. That's what I'm dubbing that. But
it was.
It's a mess.
It's definitely,
and it's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be a mess.
No, I know it's supposed to be a mess.
But what I saw in that movie was a lot of like, oh, look at this shot we did. We made this very obvious decision a normal viewer can look at, which is fine. But then people will be like, oh, those shots were insane. I'm like, okay, what did it do?
Yeah,
that's my and then I am aware this is a me problem. Don't let my opinion of like someone who's very anti-film snob, because I that's my bias.
Yeah,
I have not just like I've met a lot of director types or even wannabe director types, and that's, I don't know, I'm just I have an inclination to be very against those sort of like 5 layers deep artistic, like they're amazing shots. I don't want to discount any of the cinematographers or DPs or anything like that, because they do good work. I just think it's the director's like,
the director's vision.
Why are we putting this in why are we putting this in here? And again, it's the comparison between that. It's that and an explosion for me. They serve the same purpose for me.
It's just for different people.
But then other people will say, no, this is better than an explosion. No, this is like.
But
if you had the Giga brain like I do, if you understood the 5 layers of meaning in this shot, you would get how amazing it is.
The trouble I have with that 5 layers deep with a shot, is it's like, why should I have to go watch a film and have exclusive understanding to do it, to understand the film, right? Like, I want a shot to make me feel something, and I shouldn't have to understand the shot to feel that way, right? I'm trying to think of a movie that's done this really well. I can't think of the name. But there are a number of like mirror scenes and stuff where it's like, these are shot really well. I know they're shot well, but it also evokes an emotion in you, which is the whole point, right? A lot of these like extra shots where it's just like, it's an explosion just for people who know about film. It's like,
no, well, I mean, it always invokes an emotion, I would say. I don't think an emotion is, but in the emotion is, oh, that's a cool shot, is what my experience is.
Yeah, but see, that's I think that's the trouble. It's like, it's a cool shot, and like, did that cool shot help the film at all? Help the story at all?
Made it a little cooler.
It made it a little.
That's about it, I would say.
I prefer when my shots evoke an emotion that's relevant to the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like, it can be deep, it can be meaningful, but I don't want it to be flippant. I don't like when our shots are flippant. Okay.
For me, it's less about the actual movies and the communities around the movies and the Oscars specifically.
Well, the Oscars is just showboating from everybody.
And I think people see that.
Yeah, I think it's just all these A-listers who want to pat themselves on the back.
Yeah. I mean, I think film definitely deserves Academy Awards.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those things where, like, as it grows and grows and grows, it's harder to not become that. I'm almost wondering if there's a future 10 years down the line, and I think we're getting more and more to that point where the Game Awards kind of takes on some of those.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about. But I think as long as the right people are in charge and they can go, what path are we on? Why is our viewership decreasing so much each year? Like, the thing the Oscars just don't understand is it's not how many A-list celebrities you have performing. It's not whatever, right? Your viewership is going down because it's inherently not upsetting, but it's like gross. I don't want to listen to a 15-minute speech from some A-list actor who makes millions and millions of dollars more than I'll ever make,
I think if the Oscars actually did go the Game Awards approach and they show a lot of like world first movie trailers, I think that'd get a lot more people back in.
You would, because you have announcement stuff that hits more views than the actual Oscars do. And so,
Yeah. So make that a part of your marketing. Mm-hmm. That's what I would say.
Absolutely.
We'll have to see. So that's us not talking about the Oscars.
Yep. Glad we didn't talk about the Oscars.
Yeah, there's nothing interesting to talk about.
Anything interesting there.
I was surprised that Dune Part 2 is on there because I thought that movie came out like 2 years ago at this point. It's all a blur to me.
I know. Like, I love Dune Part 2. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's better. I think we talked about it. I think it's better than Dune Part 1. I think the ending just fails to deliver on what I wanted it to.
Okay.
But I will say every shot of the ending makes you feel the weight. It's just too fast, I think. I think that's what I said earlier when it came out, too.
Yeah.
But we can rewind the tapes and match those things together.
Yeah. Feel free to correct them.
But we can roll into,
2024.
our 2024 games.
Yeah.
We've had some time. It's really absorbed itself into us.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in my opinions. Though I already know, like, and I'll preface this, I'm going to have some scuffed picks in a way because there are some things that, like, and we saw this with the Game Awards too. It bleeds into the technicalities with it. So, like, Shadow of the Erdtree was, like, the big, like, I was very strong against, like, hey, this shouldn't be considered as a game, yada yada yada, right? Or it doesn't deserve a game of the year because it's not a game.
Yeah,
it's a DLC.
Yep, I hear what you're saying.
Whatever.
Which we have talked about since doing that. There were actually a couple DLCs that had been included in the past.
Yes.
So it wasn't a first time. It just definitely felt very gratuitous in the moment.
Yeah, so you're going to see some of that, and then there's a couple releases that are, like, in a weird spot. For example, like, betas that got that have been around for, like, a year or two that got their official release. I don't know how to feel about those, because I don't know if I'd put that in, like, a release for the year the beta came out or when the 1.0 came out. Because Baldur's Gate 3 was the same way.
Well, Baldur's Gate 3 had an early access beta, but then it closed and then came back a year later. It wasn't like continuous early access that moved into release.
Yeah. So so let's give an example. So what do you think about, like, a game Multiverses, which technically 1.0 released in 2024.
Yeah.
But really, it came out in 2022, or that's when the first beta came out.
I think I give it credit because
it won Best Fighting Game of the Year in 2022. So that's the issue. Where do you...
The trouble is it's live service. I really hesitate with live service to be like there's a 1.0 versus an early access. It's live service. You're going to continue that service throughout it, right? So at least in players' minds, right, you release a beta for a live service game that rolls over into your 1.0, no one's going to be like, well, now it's a new game, right?
Yeah.
Unlike the Baldur's Gate 3, where it was like, this is a beta. Well, now it's gone for a year and a half. And now we're back with a full release where a whole bunch of things were changed.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I draw the line with those differences.
Okay.
But no, I completely agree. Allowing fully announced betas to win awards and then full release get awards.
Yeah. Well, it didn't win anything in 2024. I can tell you that right now. It didn't win anything in 2024. But in 2022, it was just interesting because that was it won Best Fighting Game over, like, King of Fighters 15.
Yeah,
which is crazy to me. But
it had a lot of hype and it was innovative. I never got into it enough.
Yeah. Well, should we start maybe with the actual nominations?
Yeah, sure.
And then we can go over to our personal picks.
Yep. So you had Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then Metaphor ReFantazio.
Yep.
Those were your nominations, and you had so many other games that came out as well.
Yes.
You had Silent Hill 2, the remake, right?
Yep, the remake with an amazing like voice acting
Yep.
cast.
Dragon Age Veilguard, which
The 9 out of 10 on IGN.
9 out of 10 on IGN and got a 5 from players. They were just like, this is the most mid Dragon Age game we've seen.
Dragon's Dogma 2, I believe, came out in 24
I
as well.
think it did as well because Indiana Jones and the Great Circle came out after the Game Awards in December still.
Okay.
Which crazy had a 9 from players.
Another reason why like Smash Ultimate was like this too. It came out in December after the Game Awards. Sorry, guess you don't get to be in the 2018 discussion.
Yep. You
Lame.
had Black Myth Wukong. We said that already. Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. That major flop that came out.
What do you mean? That's like peak game.
Peak game. Peak everything.
That
game.
was saving Warner Brothers. What do you mean?
Yes. Black Ops 6, Star Wars Outlaws, Helldivers 2, Hellblade 2, Multiverse's official release. Marvel Rivals came out right at the end in December. Persona 3 Reload, Stellar Blade, Space Marine 2. There were a lot of good games. Tekken 8.
Yeah.
Echoes of Wisdom, The Thousand Year Door.
Yeah, Thousand Year Door remake. Yep.
Silent Hill, The Short Message was pretty bad.
The Short Message. I never even heard of that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Until Dawn.
Yeah, the PC
The
port.
PC port, yep.
That kind of, we haven't talked about it, but it kind of butchered some things that made me sad. I still want to play it though, but I'll get around to it.
And you're right, Dragon's Dogma 2 came out as well. And then a whole bunch of other things, like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
Yeah, another great game.
Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, Alan Wake 2, the DLC Night Springs. Lot of games. I can keep going.
No, I think we're good.
Concord.
I mean, I think when we're talking about snubs, Concord and Dragon Age
Pal World
got snubbed.
Yep. Mouth washing.
I know, yeah. And that's the
Hades
thing
2.
about 2024 is there was a lot of games that I wanted to play but didn't get to play or didn't get around to playing.
Yeah.
We'll say so. Like mouth washing is one of those. I wanted to play Stellar Blade if I'm being honest because it seemed like a good action game is what I'll say. And I just don't own a PS5. Same with Astrobot. I wanted to play Astrobot, but I've since watched a playthrough because, spoiler alert, it did win.
Whoa!
The game of the year award. At
no
least.
way.
And I wanted to understand more, so I did watch a playthrough. But I didn't get to play that, so that's another. So my list is limited.
Satisfactory came out. 1.0 full release.
So there's many games.
There's a lot of really good games and a lot of major flops.
Yeah, and 2024 I think was the year of the flop in terms of like
the major
sheer amount of AAA studios pumping them out.
Oh yeah,
it was
Star
you had
Wars,
some bad actors that have been consistent with flops, but this year we had a lot of failures.
Sony releasing Concord to zero reception. You had Star Wars Outlaws. That was a buggy mess, looked like a game from 2014, and touted as this great RPG that wasn't a great RPG. What other major failures were there? Veilguard.
Yep.
The RPG that wouldn't actually let you be a bad person. It literally locked you into only making good choices in a Dragon Age game,
Yeah.
You're supposed to be able to make bad choices, but it doesn't matter, right? You're locked into being an archetype, which is I think this is really what bugged me about when that game released is I thought the gameplay was fine. There's like good bones for a game, right? And of course there would be. They were going off of Dragon Age 1, right? A good game.
Inquisition?
Yeah.
Yeah, going off Inquisition, which we did win Game of the Year.
Yeah, which was a great game. And then they come out with Veilguard, and it's got the bones of a great game. But then they railroad your archetype. So it's not really an RPG. At least there are plenty of games that railroad your archetype and still are an RPG.
Yeah.
But your whole company was built off the fact that you could be who you wanted.
It just didn't meet expectations.
I mean, I think the fact that it's how you market your game, right? You told players that it would be an RPG like none other you've produced before, and you were absolutely right. The RPG aspect was worse in every way.
See, that's because I wouldn't say that like if you can't choose to be evil, it's not an RPG or even a good RPG. I think it's just because of the expectations set from Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah.
I think some things fell flat.
Yeah,
especially for fans.
This is the same thing that Avowed just did. Avowed is a new RPG that just came out recently. Critics raved about it, and players are like, "This is kind of a mid RPG."
Did they rave about it?
I thought they did. I could be wrong. I know it was a big release.
Raved about it. Oh, it was 7 out of 10 from IGN.
Oh,
the most informational number IGN can give. I mean, it seems like it was above average.
Not super raved. Okay. Anyway, I've been watching a number of people review it, and it's the same issue that Veilguard has, where you're locked into certain characters. So like you have companions and stuff, right? And you're meant to work on your reputation with them and stuff.
Okay.
But the big thing is there's some characters that are just wholly unlikable, and it doesn't matter. You're stuck with them. You have to listen to them. And it's like, where's the role-playing part of this? I can't tell them you're just a stuck-up awful person. I have to agree with you the whole game.
I don't know. I mean, that's a new IP. I don't think... Why would you expect that?
Well, that's less of an expectation. That's more of just a problem that I have with a lot of newer RPGs. And we can talk about the difference between old RPGs and new ones, right? Is some were designed for you to have companions, and you just piss off your companions and they leave you. And you're like, oh, well, oops, you know? And that's a really easy way for a game to be like, yeah, we intend you to keep this companion, but if you want to make the game harder, you can make them leave, and then you don't have to write anything else. They're just gone.
Is that the baseline now, though?
Well, I think...
For an RPG? Now, it's perfectly fine for you to be like, I love RPGs that give you the freedom to do that. I prefer, and I think I won't play a game unless it gives me that freedom. But to say like, oh, this game wasn't good because it didn't give you those options, I think is kind of stretching it.
It's just mediocrity is all.
I don't know if I'd say that.
I feel like it's mediocrity.
I think if the story is something that the game devs want to be like, hey, this is how you're going to play this RPG. You are the hero in this circumstance.
Well, okay, so
that I think that's fine.
Okay, yeah, but here we can swap it up a little bit, right? So one that made you interact with characters that you definitely hated. We can talk about Last of Us Part 2, right? Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that game. And yeah, I completely railroaded these decisions, but that's because it is purely a story game. There isn't an RPG aspect to it. Where is my role playing?
Okay.
Right? I don't mind being archetyped. That's fine, right? If I'm playing a role-playing game where my entire backstory is I'm a thief and a villain, I'm fine being archetyped to be a thief and a villain throughout the game. But I should still be able to make certain decisions about who I'm with, how bad I am, stuff like that, right?
So, and then what are you expecting these decisions to get you at the end of the game? Are you expecting that there are different endings depending on what you choose?
It's more of an immersion thing. I really don't mind if the ending's all that different. There can be 3 endings that vary by a specific companion you saved. I don't super mind that. It's like I just watched a friend play Silent Hill: The Bunker, right? There were 2 endings. One where you kill the monster and one where the monster escapes, right? The cutscenes, purely identical, save for one, the monster looks over the pit you fell into and runs away, and a second one where the monster doesn't do that, right? It's not a huge major decision, but it affects how you feel about the game, right? The devs, it didn't take them very much to include 2 different endings. But, you know, you still had an emotional weight with my choice saved lives or my choice killed people, right?
Okay.
I don't think you need major game ending stuff. I just want the ability to make meaningful choices that for the emotion of the story.
Okay. And I'm just saying maybe that's something that the game's not trying to prioritize.
But it should. It's an RPG, a role-playing game.
There it is. Everything's an RPG now, though, or everything's classified as an RPG.
That's the. I also have that problem.
Yeah.
We are too okay with mediocrity. If you're gonna be an RPG, you should meet a standard of a role-playing. That's part of it. Game.
So that's also what I said, though. I said, is that the baseline? to give. So like, I think honestly, we're pretty spoiled with the games that we've been having access to recently, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Baldur's Gate 3 are super good. You can choose to do anything.
Yeah.
Now, when that first happened, like when Skyrim and Oblivion were doing that, that was one of the game's main selling points because no other game was doing that. There were still a lot of RPGs and they were giving you choices, but not like kind of the alignment choices.
But should games nowadays be allowed to be worse than Oblivion?
Okay, no, but that's one aspect, and it's because it's not prioritizing that. It's prioritizing something else.
But then it's not an RPG, because
it's still an RPG.
I would not consider The Last of Us Part 2 an RPG, because it's not, right?
I would agree. It has RPG mechanics, and that's why some people give it
it has a
title.
Tag on the game that says it's an RPG, right? But it's not an RPG.
Yeah.
And I think most gamers understand that.
You'd be surprised.
Well, okay.
You would be very surprised.
Most gamers should understand.
A lot of people think that God of War is an actual like RPG.
Yeah.
So
I guess you get to role play as Kratos.
Exactly. So so role playing. Are you role playing as the character? Or are you role playing as your creation? And then what does your creation get access to?
I believe an RPG should allow me to immerse myself in this character. Oh,
okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Which should allow me some freedom and choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if a game doesn't decide to prioritize that, that shouldn't be a knock on it. If it does what it's trying to do well.
If it does what it's trying to do well, right? But if you're like Veilguard that came out saying that you were going to be an RPG better than Inquisition and you fail to do that, then that's a problem.
But that was for many different reasons, not just the role-playing aspects.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the role-playing aspects.
Okay.
Because a player is willing to overlook a lot of gameplay. Oblivion, Skyrim, when it first came out.
I mean, the gameplay was still seen as pretty good back then.
The
everyone said the combat was a little mashy.
Yeah, and
people enjoyed the combat people enjoyed the gameplay because a lot of the gameplay was exploring as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think we have allowed ourselves to give AAA studios too much leeway, which it was proven. It was proven we did because in 2024 you had so many games that were touted as hits. They were going to be the best thing ever, totally flop, right?
And I want to say, I'm not like trying to defend Avowed. I just don't like the idea that if your RPG doesn't have an alignment system, or if it's an open world RPG and it doesn't have an alignment system, then that should be minus points.
If it's an open world RPG, I believe it should have some kind of an alignment system. I feel like that is like baseline open world
I wouldn't
RPG.
Say so. I wouldn't say so.
You can just go around and kill random NPCs and have it not affect you in any way?
Well, it depends if it gives you the option to kill NPCs, I would say.
Well, then,
what if a game doesn't even let you kill NPCs?
Then that's fine, right? That's a Zelda mechanic, right? I don't think Zelda's a bad RPG. I think it's a real RPG. But it also doesn't put you in situations where those choices affect your long-term gameplay, right?
Because it's not trying to. That's not what it's trying to prioritize.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? If you have one where you're going and you have to build relationship with XYZ person, right? But it's not letting you
make decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You're ruining the intended purpose.
Yeah, sure. That's completely fine. That's completely fine. That's completely fine. It's always case by case.
Well, absolutely. It is definitely case by case. I can't pick one thing and be like, if you don't have this in your game, I will not play it, right? That's a ridiculous level to place on anything.
Yeah. And I should also say, I was thinking of this interview where, after Baldur's Gate 3 came out, someone was like, the bar has been raised too high. I'm not trying to say that either.
Yeah.
Because I think the bar, especially for AAA devs, should be made high. I just don't think that this one aspect, the character alignment system, should be like a necessity for an RPG.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. But counter side, once again, I do think that for many games, AAA devs have set their own bar way too low.
That's very true. I'm not going to argue against that.
Yeah, and so, no, I don't expect every game in the future to be the level of Baldur's Gate 3, right? It won Game of the Year for a reason. It's still around for a reason. Larian is a great company for that reason, right? They're willing to spend 6 to 8 years on a game to make it great. I understand that's not viable for a lot of larger companies, right?
Well, they do that anyway, and then it doesn't Well, they do. It doesn't work out.
It's the difference between Larian, where it's not development hell. It's 8 years of crafting a refined game with a singular vision, versus Ubisoft coming out with Star Wars Outlaws. That was 6 years of development hell, where they redid the script 4 times and everything else. Where it's like that doesn't excuse the game you made, but it does explain why it was so bad.
Yeah. All right. Anyway. Long RPG rant aside, but let's know what you think. Do you think that if it is a role playing game, if it's claiming to be that, does it need to give your characters an option to be good or bad? That's the question. What do you guys think?
Sure, we answer that question first.
To our 2024 top 10s. Now, maybe do you have a top 10 or just a couple like top games?
I definitely have a couple top games.
Okay, because I have my something I do every year, which I've said before, is every year I just make a list of all the games I've been playing as I'm going throughout the year.
Yep.
And then I make a top 10 list. I make 2 lists: games that came out in 2024, so it's relevant for conversations like this, and so I remember what actually comes out during the year.
Yep.
And then games that I played during the year but didn't necessarily come out, because I think that's also important, because there are games that I played this year that didn't come out in 2024 that had an impact on me, and I want to talk about it. And I think it's worth me talking about those and bringing it up in the 2024 discussion.
Well, I've got a couple games that I'm like, these were probably top 10, regardless of the fact that I played them or not, right?
Okay, yeah, let's hear them.
So I got Balatro on that list. I want to put Shadow of the Erd Tree, Black Myth Wukong. I think Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
Purely because phenomenal. Space Marine 2. Tekken 8, probably. There's an indie game called... Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. Like a Dragon. I did watch some of that. Freaking fun game.
Yeah. It's a fun game. It is.
I'm looking. I had a thought here.
Okay.
Where is it? Mouthwashing, I think, is phenomenal. Skull and Bones.
No. I'm just gonna shut that down right now.
I think Animal Well, and then honestly, I would say Batman Arkham Shadow, one of the best all-time action VR games that a AAA studio has released, and definitely one of the best Batman games in recent memory. So,
yeah, no, that's completely fair. I'm not going to challenge you on that list, mainly because I know you just haven't played a bunch of those.
Yeah.
So the games on my list are only games that I've played, and let's see, have I not beaten any of these? I haven't beaten one of these games, so I'm very experienced with these. Just disclaimer: you're not going to see Shadow of the Erd Tree on here. I'm again I think it's a DLC.
Okay. Did I say Helldivers 2?
You did not.
If I want to get rid of Shadow of the Erd Tree, I would put Helldivers 2 in there.
I was surprised I didn't hear that, or Space Marine. You said
I
Space Marine too?
I did say Space Marine.
You did. So I'll start with number 10 for me of 2024 was Satisfactory 1.0.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if we're counting it, and this is where the murky line is.
Yeah.
This is like my murky pick, because I'm like, well,
Because that had been out.
it's been out.
Yep.
But the 1.0 released. I don't know where to put this. I didn't really put it in any other list.
Which I never even got to the final, what does it go up to? Tier 8 now?
It's tier 9.
Tier 9.
With nuclear pasta.
Yeah, and that's that's the ending now. And I'm like, it's so complicated.
There's the end. There's an ending.
Yeah.
There wasn't an ending for the time I played it the most. But it's still in terms of a factory builder, an automation game, even playing it with friends, it's super good. If you haven't heard of Satisfactory, you're thrown on an alien planet and you build factories, and then you use the materials from that to make more complicated stuff, and then you get there's fun aspects that's fun too. But there's tubes you can zip through, there's vehicles you can unlock, trains, cars, you can automate both of those. You can fight the monsters now. That's something that they've been working on.
Yeah, I would struggle to put it 1.0 release as a top 10, but I love Satisfactory. I think last year I put almost 200 hours into the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing where it's like, hey, if I'm considering this is the release of Satisfactory and it's been barred from any list until this moment, then I'm going to give it up to Satisfactory.
That's completely
for
fair.
number 10. I think that's completely fair.
Yeah.
Right above it at number 9, I have Black Myth Wukong. So
that's fair. I think
great
it
action RPG.
Yeah, I think it completely deserves a top 10 spot. Wherever you want to put that, that's completely up to you.
Yeah. So it almost didn't make the list if I'm being honest, but then I was looking at the things I was putting above it and I was like, I'll bump it up. I'll bump it up.
Yeah.
You know, it's got great combat. It's basically a boss rush game, which you know, I enjoyed.
Yep.
I enjoyed. There are some BS moments, but you know, I think that's fine.
I think a lot of BS moments I had definitely came out of the character designs because they were just so big and you had to whatever. I didn't mind because it was stylized. It was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, I think why it doesn't get like super, or it doesn't get much farther than number 9 to me is it just didn't have like the sauce, and I've talked about the sauce before, but it's like I think Lies of P is a better Souls or Souls-like game, whatever you want to call it, than Black Myth Wukong, and I think it clears it. If I'm being honest,
that's completely fair. I think Lies of P is arguably a better game.
Yeah.
But if you're 1-to-1 with Souls, right? Like if you're talking boss rush games, it's probably one of my favorite boss rush games I've played. Yeah.
And I was surprised by the amount of people that were like, it's the best game of all time this year. You know, honestly, that was something that, and I've talked about it before on this podcast, but it did confuse me. I don't know if it was, you know, the Chinese propaganda coming in. Or, you know, just like baby's first Souls game or something like that. But it was, I don't know, it was good.
Oh, it was good. Yeah.
If it got Game of the Year, I would have been like,
I think I pushed really hard for it to get Game of the Year because I was just coming off the train of playing it.
Yeah. Did you ever like finish it? Yeah, you did. You did beat it. Good.
And so it's definitely at a spot where I'm like, now that I've played the whole game and the glasses have come off and it's over and it's past, I don't think it deserves a Game of the Year.
Would you ever replay it? I don't think I would.
Yes, because I really only used one fighting stance the whole time.
Pillar? Or
no, I used the twirly one. I can't remember.
Oh.
Which I'm like, I would love to play it more and experiment with different like stances and stuff. And so I think I would play it one more time, but I don't know it has more than that. But it's also a boss rush game. So it's definitely one of those things where if I'm just like running to each boss without feeling much else, I could get through it pretty quick.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Number 8. Now there's a deep cut indie game. It's called RoboBeat.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I ever mentioned it on the podcast.
I've totally heard of it.
But imagine it's Doom, but it's also a rhythm game.
Yep.
So you can choose one of the game songs, or what I did, I uploaded my own songs to the game, and it'll find the BPM, and then you play the levels, and it's technically a rogue. It's like a Doom rogue game, but it's also a rhythm game. So when you shoot, if you shoot on it'll only shoot on the beat. So you gotta shoot on the beat, you gotta dodge on the beat, you gotta do your abilities on the beat.
Yep.
It's super fun. It's super fun, and that's probably that's like the third best. The game. How do I say this? In terms of my games on the top 10, this was like number 3 and how it made me like feel good.
Yeah.
You know? Which I realize now isn't like a super like big compliment, but you know, it's like it feels really good, especially if you get like a banger going on. Like, oh, you could put some Brazilian funk and you'd feel like a god, man.
I definitely, it's like Beat Saber for me, where I don't think I'd put Beat Saber as number 1 game ever, but does it bring me a lot of joy every time I play Beat Saber? Yeah, it does.
I mean, I can't help but smile every time I boot it up.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
I love rhythm games.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So, but you know, and I had a better time with it than Black Myth Wukong. I was kind of like, well, you know, is this really above Black Myth Wukong? And then I was looking at the list. It's like, well, out of all the games that I'm thinking about putting Black Myth Wukong above, I had like such a better time with RoboBeat.
Yeah.
I'm going to put RoboBeat above it.
Yeah.
So right above that, at number 7 is Black Ops 6. So I haven't played a Call of Duty game since I played a little bit of Warzone.
Yep.
And then last one was Black Ops 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then really I played Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
I thought Call of Duty was dead for the most part.
Yep.
I don't think I'd ever go back.
Yeah.
Black Ops 6 snatched me up against my better judgment. And I have like over 150 hours.
Yeah,
and it came out in October, so that and just to give context,
yeah,
like,
I think I looked. I have about 60 hours in the game.
Yeah, and most of that's multiplayer. I've played some zombies, but just the Call of Duty multiplayer, I didn't realize I was missing until I went back to it. I'm like, man, this arcade shooter, and I got my objective in mind. I'm grinding for dark matter. I'm getting all these skins. Like, I'm having a great time, honestly, and I'm getting like slurred out in the lobbies again, which is always great. So it's like. It really, and this could be like nostalgia talking about, like, I felt really like happy playing that game, and not only that, I got my friends to play it, so that was also amazing.
Oh,
just
it was a
being
great
in a
time.
Call of Duty lobby with friends is like, I don't know, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat.
Absolutely.
Now, in terms of, does this game like have a lot of merit over like some other games that came out this year? Probably not. Would I say Silent Hill 2 Remake is a better game than Black Ops 6? Maybe. I didn't play Silent Hill 2.
That's fair.
But I think Black Ops 6, I think we discredit a lot of just good old-fashioned fun nowadays.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like a game breaker or anything.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd put it in my top 10, but if I had to be like top 10 games I played that year, yeah, it's up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so Black Ops 6. Number 6, we got Rivals 2. We got Rivals 2, Rivals of Ether 2, I should say.
Yep.
So I was touting this game a lot before it came out, and then it came out, and I put 50 hours into it.
How much have you played this year?
In 2025?
Yeah.
I've been playing every month as the updates come out. The problem is, now that the game is a bit older, all the new players have left, so I'm basically getting rocked in almost every lobby that I'm in because... people just
now it's just platform people.
Yeah, it's only the grinders that are in, but it's still a lot of fun. And anytime I play with friends, it's a blast. And I think it's a really good foundation, but the foundation is good enough for me to be up here. Like, I love platform fighters.
Yep.
Rivals 2 is probably the second best platform fighter.
I think that's absolutely fair.
There's not much else
I was about to say
that it has in the way of that.
Yep.
If I'm being honest,
you got Smash Bros. You got Rivals. You got Brawlhalla.
No, wait.
Brawlhalla's good.
Not Multiverses.
Nope, that's gone.
PlayStation All Star. No,
that
doesn't work either.
Yeah.
So honestly, like, Rivals 2 is a great time, even as a casual, even if you're a casual player, just running around spamming buttons, especially in a 4-player lobby or doubles. It's like, it's super fun.
Yeah,
super fun. I'm a big game guy. I'm a big fun thing. Yeah, I'm a big fun guy.
Yeah, well, I always aim to have fun. If I'm gonna sink my time into something, I better enjoy it.
Yep. So following Rivals 2, and I was not expecting this. If you asked me like halfway or in October or in November for a game like this to be this high, but above Rivals 2, I do have Marvel Rivals.
That was great. I think that was a great game.
That's probably my biggest surprise of the year.
Yeah, is
how much I enjoyed Marvel Rivals. When I saw the trailers, I thought it was going to be another like Paladin situation where it's like, it's going to have its cult following, but it's not going to be big.
Yeah.
That sort of deal. But, and really the size of the community doesn't super matter. But I was surprised by it was the amount of people that was making me be like, should I try this game? And that's what got me in. And it's just a crazy, chaotic hero shooter. I think if you try to take this game seriously, you're going to have a miserable time.
Yeah. I
like being Mr. Fantastic and going big mode in front of people, Like, I like doing that. I like being Storm and just cheesing the enemies and all that. Yeah. I don't really think it's a good competitive game, but I think it's an amazing hero shooter. The team-up system that they added is super fun. It's super stupid if you think about it competitively for more than 5 seconds, but, I think that's a part of the fun.
Well, I will say, as someone who's played a lot of the competitive now, you don't feel the team ups as much. Like there's little things. I think it's more gimmicky than anything else. Like it's not overpowered.
I mean, the Venom Spider-Man team up, I think, is a little, and the Storm Human Torch.
It's balanced because Spider-Man's just kind of a bad character.
He's a high skill ceiling character. That's different.
I guess so. Since playing competitive with Marvel Rivals, I think that there is a lot of team comp to it, and the ability to just flex queue whatever you want.
Yeah, is
really great because you're like, oh no, we're losing. Let's run a couple tanks onto the site, hold it down, and rebuild our comp. Right? It plays so much into communication. It plays so much into even just skill on top of it. Right? Or telling which player to go and proxy the team versus. I think that I think if you are not communicating with your team, there is no competitive nature to it because it's just so much going on. But if you have a team that's communicating, the coordination genuinely becomes really interesting and really fun.
Yeah. I mean, my other problem, well, I have a bunch of like competitive problems with it. Like, I think healers' ults are like, why is every healer ult just save the team for 10 seconds? Like, I think that's pretty dumb. And they are starting to fix that.
Yeah.
Like, they, like, literally in the Human Torch's trailer before he came out, they showed him out damaging a healer ult just because that was such a big problem. And triple healer was a big, meta problem. And also just the inflation in the ranks because they didn't do any rank reset. So it's very much like everyone is in diamond or everyone is in platinum because you only gain points, you don't lose points.
There are some competitive issues that I have with how it's set up, but I definitely think the game has legs to become a very good competitive game. It just needs some work.
Man, but did you see that they fired the whole team?
Different part of the team.
Yeah, different part of the team. But that's just crazy to me.
I mean, there was some internal drama that I heard about, but
it's just unfortunate. But what's not unfortunate is how good the game was. Because it was really good, and it brought a lot of new Marvel characters to the forefront. Like no one knew who Luna Snow was before this. Not a lot of people knew who Magic was. So it's super cool to see more characters get the spotlight. And Squirrel Girl. So a lot of people know about Squirrel Girl now. But it's super cool, and it's just a fun game. Still boot it up from time to time.
Absolutely.
All right, top 4. These are like, I think these were the hardest 4 to choose between, and there might be some surprises for you, Micah, specifically.
Okay,
but
I'm ready.
Well, you're not going to be surprised by the games I chose. It's just where they go.
Okay.
So, number 4, I had Persona 3 Reload.
Completely fair.
Atlas RPG. It didn't get any mention at the Game Awards, which is fair because of another Atlas RPG yet to be named that also came out in the same year. But I never played Persona 3 before. I'm a big Persona fan. Hit all my buttons, what I wanted from it. Soundtrack is amazing. It was in like my top 4 most listened to songs on Spotify was It's Going Down Now. The characters were all great. The story I thought was a little weaker compared to other Persona games, but still really good. That's not a knock against it. The only problem I have with the game is how they chose to do the DLC. I think they should have had the DLC in the base game, and it was pretty obvious that it was just a way to try to get more money. Which is something that Atlas hasn't done with Persona games yet, so that was sad. But besides that, I think it's great. I'd still suggest Persona 5 over it, but it's good. It's good. Number 3, Balatro.
I think that is shocking that you put at 3.
I know. So this was probably the most painful decision I made, was putting Balatro at 3. I have not wasted. I have endured so many hours of gold stake runs. It's a poker rogue for anyone not familiar, and it was a Game of the Year nominee.
It was,
which made me so happy. It made me so happy that just something super straightforward and all about just the person playing the game, not watching a movie, and not, it's just you in the game.
I think it was a beautiful thing to be there, and that's why it's in some of my top 10. I would definitely put it in the top 10 games I played that year. 100%. I did.
It's one of those games where it's like, oh, this is stupid when you see someone watch it, and then you play it, and I know like multiple people who are like that. It's like, what? This game looks so dumb. What are you doing? And then like
you play it
10 days later,
it.
They got 20 hours in the game, and they're like, I can't stop. So it's just
it's so good.
It's probably one of the best rogues to ever come out, if I were to be so bold.
That is a very bold statement.
top 5.
Yeah, let's put it in top 5.
Top 5 rogues of all time.
I can think of a couple that I'm like maybe a little higher, but
no, I agree. There's some other ones where I'm like, this could be better. But Balatro, it spoke to me as it did to many others. And when I don't know what I'm gonna play and I have like 20 minutes,
Balatro's great.
I'm pulling up Balatro.
Yep.
So, and I put Balatro on like every device I own too. The only thing, the last bastion is my phone. I didn't want to put on my phone out of fear of my work productivity. So I'm locking it on my phone, but every other device I have has Balatro on it.
Nice.
So, including like games that have no business having Balatro on it. So super cool.
Very nice.
Number 2 is Metaphor ReFantasio.
That's fair.
Also produced by Atlas, also a Game of the Year nominee. The job system. So what your alignment system is to open world RPGs, that's a job system to me in turn-based RPGs. I love a good job system. I love a good job system. And I think Metaphor, would I say it's one of the best? No, but it's one of the greats. So I don't know how that will make you feel hearing that, but people can select different roles to be, and they can level up that role, get new abilities, new spells, new attacks, you know, and then you can swap to the other one. And then there are certain jobs that you have to be certain levels and different jobs to unlock. The story, I think it might be the best story in an Atlas RPG, which I think is a hot take because some people would say Persona 4 or 5 or even some people say 2, which whatever, that had Hitler in it for some reason.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever. So...
I mean,
I think it's one of the best stories, and I think the best villain by far. And that's what really made me love this game was the villain, who's his name's Luis. Like he feels like the main character of the story, for the most part. He is the constant threat. He's probably in my head one of the best video game villains.
Yeah.
So which is awesome. Like that I can say that about a game that came out after 2014.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of many villains after that time that are up there for me.
Yeah.
So great story. Great turn-based RPG mechanics off the battle system with they have like little turn globs, I forget what they're called, but you can get rid of them or get more and all that, and it's super good. It's super good. And it's an expansion of Persona 5 Combat. It looks amazing. The soundtrack is awesome. There's not really a weak point. The middle of the story was like probably the weakest point for me, but that's because I didn't know what they were going to do with the job system, because I thought like, well, I figured out the job system and it's only halfway through the game. Wrong. I was wrong. So and that made me very happy. Ending of the game was great.
And your number 1?
Number 1 was an indie game called Yellow Taxi Goes Through.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
So I've mentioned this before. That I love this game.
Yep.
It's a 3D platformer.
Yep.
But there's no jump button. And you are a taxi.
And it goes vroom.
That goes vroom.
Yep.
It's kind of like Mario 64. There are levels you go into. And you collect these gears, which are your stars. What do I start with? I mean, probably the mechanics.
Yep.
I would just say the mechanic, like just there's a boost system, and that's how you jump, is like you jump off ramps, and then you got different ways of traversal. So for not having a jump button, the traversal system is pretty deep, and it feels super good, especially when you nail some of the boosting mechanics. It's like super good. I love like a good 3D movement like engine, let's say.
Yep.
No pun intended. So it's like that, and it's also got Crazy Taxi elements, and I love Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
I love Crazy Taxi. So it's got some of that, some Mario 64 in it, and it's all right. Music's great. Now, graphically, it'll probably turn off a lot of people. Yeah. Because it's an indie game, and it looks a bit like
it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. It's the art style though. And in graphics, I've never been like, oh, it needs to look like super realistic. Like it's super stylized, which I love, and it's consistent within itself, which is something I said before. It does a really good job at that, but it's not the focus. The focus is driving around. It embraces speedrunning to a point which, you know, I super love. I've speedrun it for a bit. It has tricks. It has jokes. The main villain is like an Elon Musk parody. And I've maybe beaten it like 40 times at this point, and that's probably lowballing it. And when I think of like games I had the most fun with in 24, that came out in 24.
Yeah.
That's probably the number one. I think it is super, super underrated. And I'm not just putting it at number one because it's underrated. I'm not trying to be super contrarian.
Yeah.
Like about it. It's like, actually, Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom should have gotten Game of the Year.
Yeah.
It was never going to win Game of the Year. And I'm aware. I think it was my favorite Game of the Year. And one of the best.
Yeah. I mean, so while you've been talking, I've been really trying to grasp for the game that I probably had the most fun with. And I think I've come to a very solid conclusion. I will say I played a lot of games that I really enjoyed that didn't come out in 24. So I'm limiting my scope to ones that definitely did. And I think my number one that I had so much fun in is Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Like I don't even remember when it came out, but I put almost 200 hours in the game. Made it to, I think, level 50 something. And then my brother and people are well over level 100 at this point. And they keep adding content, and it's really, really good. And I boot it up every now and then, and it's so much fun. Like every single time, I never regret booting it up and playing it. And I always get a smile and a laugh, and it's so much fun. Right below that, probably put Marvel Rivals.
Yeah.
A lot of multiplayer games that I super duper enjoyed. Below that, Black Ops 6. Like these are definitely the games that I had the most fun with that came out that year.
Yeah.
And then I played a whole bunch of games that didn't come out that year.
Yeah.
Because I like my older games.
Yeah, and I know that section took a while, so I'm just gonna quickly glance over some other highlights of the year. So I've been playing the Dragon Quest games in 24. I'm stuck on 5 right now, and I'm probably going to restart 5 because I've gotten into the retro treatment thing since. So probably going to focus on 5 again and pick that back up.
Yeah.
I want to get all the way back to 11. 12 exists, or it's announced. So we'll see what happens there. A game that threw me off was a game called Metal Storm on the NES. And this was before I was even doing the retro treatment stuff. I just played a random NES game and it happened to be Metal Storm. And I was surprised because the quality of the game was so good for an NES game. You know, most NES games you're like, oh, this is BS, or oh, this is convoluted or confusing. But it was a super fun shooter game. It's like the gimmick is you can switch gravity. So it's just a run and gun, but you can switch gravity, and the music's good. So that surprised me. I played through most of Dead Cells.
Dead Cells is
including
good.
the DLCs.
Dead Cells is great.
I played Super Mario Bros. 1, 100% of that on Retro Achievements.
Nice.
That was a game where I was like, oh, Mario Bros. 1, it's just this. And it's so much better than I thought it would be, if that makes sense. Like, you have an idea of what playing Mario is going to look like, or Mario 1 specifically. Everyone knows Mario 1. But have you played Mario 1? You know, it's like... It was interesting. It was different. I played Blasphemous 1. That was a big surprise for me, like, in how much I enjoyed that game. I have this on number 2.
Are you going to play Blasphemous 2?
I'll get around to it. I'm going to wait, but I'll get around to it.
I just couldn't get past the art style. It hurt my head.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's interesting, the pixelated graphics?
Yeah, it hurt my head playing it.
That's
I had to stop it because it was giving me headaches.
I'm so sorry for you.
I know. I was really enjoying it.
And then I had my number 1 for games that didn't come out in 2024 was Skyrim, and I've played Skyrim before.
Yep.
But this... In 2024,
you played so much Skyrim.
I played so much Skyrim. I downloaded hundreds of mods. It was mainly modded.
Yep.
So that's why that was my big Skyrim resurgence. Is I played modded Skyrim, tons of new content, Legacy of the Dragonborn, or I don't think that's the official title, but that stole years of hours,
bro.
Yeah, out of my life.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
I played so many city builders in 24. I played Anno 1800. I played Farthest Frontier. I played Manor Lords. I played City Skylines 2.
The Beaver one.
Timberborn.
Yeah.
Lot of city builders I played last year. I guess that was just my kick for the year.
I know. Yeah. It was interesting to see. I couldn't really relate to you that much.
Yeah, that's fair.
I tried it out Frostpunk. Because you recommended it to me. It just wasn't my thing. And that's okay.
Fair. Yep.
And that's okay. That's the nice thing about us being different people is we can have different opinions and just say that the other person is wrong. And there we go.
True.
But that's the Game of the Year segment.
Yeah,
we're going to have to wait like 9 whole months before
we have
do this again.
I know we have another segment in the works that's going to replace Game of the Year.
I know it. Oh, I cannot wait for this. You guys are going to love it.
Be prepared for some fun stuff.
You won't be. You won't be prepared.
Yeah, you have no idea.
But,
who knows? The whole set might change.
Yeah. That's true. Going through, don't set that expectation, by the way. Don't set that expectation. But something like a big question I've been having as we've been going through this is like, are games better now than they were earlier in time? Because when we were going through these years, there were some banger years. 99.
Yeah.
2004.
Yeah.
2008 and 9 were both really good. 2014, 2017, and 18. Those are some highlights.
Yep.
And 23, really, if we're being
absolutely.
honest. So, like...
I have some very critical, thought-out thoughts on this topic. Would you like to hear them?
Thank you for asking. Yes, I would love to hear your critical, thought-out thoughts.
I have two fields of thought. Okay. The first one... AAA studios. The second one, AA and below.
Okay.
I think that modern games, the ceiling just keeps getting raised. When a good game comes out, it raises the bar. That being said, the average AAA game has become so bad since I think starting in 2018.
Okay.
They've just really started to go downhill. Now, that being said, Steam released their numbers on how many games are being released every day, right? It ranges between 50 and 80 games every single day are being released on Steam. Most of them, absolute crap. That being said, the sheer volume of games being produced nowadays means there are so many good AA and below games that are being released. Indie to AA games. I think that there is a level of, we have more good games now than we've ever had. But if we are just critiquing the big games that come out, they are so much worse on average than we have gotten in the past, right? Because you think there's a reason Skyrim has stayed around. Like, in all honesty, if a game's been around that long, there's a certain je ne sais quoi that... that other game developers should be trying to match, right?
They just don't have that.
It's been out for so long. How can you not do something similar, right? Like, there are so many Skyrim clones that are worse than Skyrim, and it's been out...
Like Avowed.
It's been out for how long, and you can't duplicate the feeling people get when playing Skyrim?
Yeah.
Like, new players still come to Skyrim. It sells millions of copies every single time it remasters itself to new people.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest turnoff for new people playing Skyrim is because its graphics are outdated. You know what Bethesda does? Let's update the graphics, and a whole new generation of people come to play it. How is it possible that these companies can't even clone the game and make it enjoyable? There's just such an average degradation of quality in AAA studios.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to just the amount of money that's involved nowadays.
Yeah.
So what's encouraged, I think, is to be super safe and get your profits in, or else you're going to get fired. If you're a developer or a game director, that's probably where you're going to go. Now, there are some people like Kojima, like Hideo Kojima, who they can make whatever they want. They can be as unsafe as they want. And sometimes that can make great stuff. Sometimes that can make bad stuff. But the amount of money involved nowadays versus, even 10, 15 years ago is just so crazy how much money is being made off games. It's lapped movies and then some. Like, it's insane just how much money is involved. Which makes, like, if you're EA or if you're Capcom or Nintendo or Xbox or Sony, and you already got a big piece of the pie. Yeah. You just need to make sure you don't lose it. Yeah. And so you make these products that you feel like is going to keep your piece safe. Yeah. But then people realize, oh, I'm tired of this piece. Yeah.
Well, the trouble is they believe what gamers want is a bigger game every single time. And a lot of gamers are just like, well, I just want more of the same game, right? Like, Assassin's Creed wasn't losing players. In fact, Assassin's Creed 4 was their biggest game ever. They had nothing but traction, right? Then Unity came out, and it wasn't a bad game, per se. It just was rushed. It came out too quickly. There were so many bugs on launch, and people didn't super enjoy it. Okay. And then from that point on, they were like, oh goodness, the players hated what we did with Unity. We have to completely shift gears and do something else. And it's like, no, you just released a really buggy game. You know, people enjoyed the story in Unity. People enjoyed the game. It's just, it was really difficult to play. The multiplayer that you touted was going to be so cool. You could do missions as a co-op. Ended up being super buggy and desynced and really bad. And it's not that you pushed out, you know, it's not that players wanted a different Assassin's Creed genre. You just didn't provide us with a good game.
Yeah.
You know, and I think so many devs just underestimate the power of a polished game on release.
Yeah. Well, and that's really a shame, isn't it? Is that that's what it's come to, is that they're underrating the value of a finished product.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy because back in, you know, before Wi-Fi, it had to be a finished product.
Yep.
You know, and there are definitely times where it wasn't a finished product on release. But for the most part, it had to be a finished product. And so I think that's something that it's sad we don't have that limitation anymore.
Yes.
It's good that we don't overall, but it's giving all these companies outs.
Yeah, and there are companies who are doing it right. So like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I'm going to tout them right here because they're doing it right. What they did is during development, right, they have a massive update coming out soon, and the game's only been out a month, right? And people are like, well, why wasn't this included in the base game? Well, the devs basically said, hey, so about 6 months ago, we realized, hey, there are a lot of things that are super buggy, and we can't put them in the base game, but we have a deadline to release the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to polish this part, leave out this extra content, and we're going to give you a basically bug-free game, and you're just going to get a patch in a month that includes more content that is also bug-free because we split our dev team on it.
Yeah. Capcom's doing something similar with Monster Hunter with their title update that comes out in 2.5, 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
Though they didn't send a message out about that. So I don't, that's just a part of the Monster Hunter formula at this point. But it's, those two companies are doing the same thing. Hey,
exactly.
You bought this game, you're going to get this content like after the fact.
Yep.
Just for free. No strings attached.
Just
no
because we want to provide you with the best. Larian did the exact same thing.
Yeah, patch 8 just came out for Baldur's Gate 3 with a new subclass for each class.
For each class.
Crazy.
I know. And they released map editing tools and the ability to make custom quest lines. So freaking give it a year and we're going to be playing Curse of Strahd in Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, people could be hosting their own campaigns on Baldur's Gate.
In Baldur's Gate, you know? And it's like, oh...
And you could probably publish it too.
Yeah.
And then you just download a D&D campaign off and play it on Baldur's Gate.
Absolutely. That is the beauty of a studio that cares about its player base. And that's what a lot of AAA devs just don't have anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of their... and I think really comes down to company direction kind of area. And the fact that I think a lot of people that are coming into these game studios just have... experience not in games. Now that could be good depending on, you know, where your company is at. But what you're going to see because of that is the direction of the company is going to go in a way that doesn't understand what makes XYZ games so special or what resonates with XYZ gamers, you know? And that's just something you're going to have to take or leave, you know, obviously depending on the position of the company. There are some companies that might need that outside expertise to come in and save them. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, they're horrible for doing that. But when you do that enough, when enough people running the show aren't gamers, they're telling the devs they need to meet this rush deadline. They're telling gamers, oh, you're just like, you hate this series or you hate this in general, when you know they just hate the parts you had a decision in.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's so, well, even studios are so bloated. Like I'm not a fan of layoffs, right? But you look at Ubisoft, who laid off 600 employees, right? And it's like, where were these devs working on what? You know, you have so many devs with so little oversight into direction that you're literally just giving 100 devs work on some project that you know isn't going to be released, and it's demoralizing and it's degrading. And you have a lot of these devs coming out and saying the culture is so bad at these companies. And I'm talking about Blizzard. I'm talking about Ubisoft. I'm talking about EA, you know. It's just such a bad atmosphere to be a dev because you're just another number to these companies.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Like, Who knows if the project you're putting your heart and soul into is even the same thing you're working on next month?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no
Because
continuation.
again, it's the people who don't have their fingers in the pie that are saying, "Oh, we can scrap this game."
Yep.
We don't. I know we've been working on it for a year and a half. Let's ditch it at this point. It's a lost cause. It's not safe enough.
Yep.
We don't know it's not a guaranteed profit.
Yep. Or games will be released, and then the executive team will look at the game and be like, this isn't safe for us to release. And then they'll send it back, and it will get watered down until some crusty old 60-year-old executive goes, I think my grandson would enjoy this. And then turns out his grandson hates it.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Because there's
matter.
no soul behind it.
Exactly.
There's no a part of the beauty of going through the years like this is we've been able to kind of see, and we didn't go like far back to the 80s, but we've been kind of able to see the formation of an entire new medium.
Yeah.
And we've been living through that for the most part, which that's a pretty cool time to be living in.
Yep.
I would say is that we've been able to experience the growth of like the exponential growth of video games to the point where now it has a show that gets more viewers than, Netflix shows and the Oscars sometimes, actually, I don't know about that, but, but we've gotten to a point where it's kind of mainstream now.
Yeah.
And it's because people at the beginning wanted to either tell a story or have a lot of fun with their family or friends, or just wanted to feel like a character, role play as a character, to give people experiences that they weren't able to get in mediums like books and movies and TV.
Yep.
So that interactive medium has now become this huge thing, and it's pretty sweet. You
Yeah.
know? So that's positive. But, in terms of are games better now than they are back then? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to stick to, I think there are more better games now than there have ever been.
Sure. But are the peaks of games right now better than the peaks of games back then?
Well, yeah. So
That's the other.
that's what I'm saying is our peaks are higher than ever before. Our lows are so low with the amount of money lost and everything else, which I think culminates our average is so much lower, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You had so many good mid to high budget games coming
and
out
now you got
10 years
AI
ago.
slop taking
it's
over.
so bad.
So-
I heard is another knock against Avowed that a lot of the characters' dialogue was written by AI to save a scriptwriter.
I never heard about that.
Just I don't know if it's true, but I did read it.
Yeah. And so that's the new thing now is now we get to see what the industry does with AI.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's the car, not the bus driver.
I hope so.
Is what I think. But,
I hope so.
Whatever.
We'll see.
We'll have to see. Yeah. Just like you'll have to see next time on the BroadBoys podcast. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. I think this was a great episode for discussion. I wanted to go so much deeper on a lot of things you said, but I had to stop myself.
Yeah.
So we'll put it in the bank. We'll leave it for next time.
Yeah.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what was your favorite year. And what was your favorite 2024 game. And why is it Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom?
Let us know if you would like us to do a deep dive into how the industry has changed, especially in the last 10, 15 years. I'm sure we'd be happy to do that research and do a more informative episode if you'd want it.
No, there's many topics that we can get informative on. History of dating games.
I would love to do a history of dating games. That'd be funny.
Just wait. You'll have to see.
Yeah. Did we say like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, ring the notifications?
You guys still haven't found Micah's address yet.
Check us on our socials.
Like all our shorts.
Yeah, like every short.
All right. Well, you guys have a great one.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.